Hi guys, welcome back to Bunny Brick Designs. So today I thought I'd do something a little bit different because I haven't gotten any new bargain or curated bead boxes in, but they're coming. They're on order. They should be here in a couple of days. But in the meantime, I had to make up some pendants, and I was doing some wire wrapping, and so I thought I would do a video and show you how I made this wire wrapped drop, and these are like the points, but they're the raw gemstones, and this is the aura quartz crystal. So I don't know if you can see that, if I can get that in the light. It's got like a oil slick type finish, and it does have holes drilled, but we're gonna pretend like with this one I pretended we didn't have holes. And while you can see it if you look at it on the side, it's covered on this side by the swirls. So maybe for this one I'll do swirls on both sides to cover the holes. But we're gonna make a pendant similar to this one with some 3mm or 4mm rounds, and this is the Chakra colors. So, all right, so what we're going to need to do that is we're going to need 3 pieces of copper wire, and I have 20 gauge copper wire here, and it's square. I like using the square better. It holds to the gemstones better than the round, and it's a little easier to work with. And then the other thing we're going to need is some half round copper wire. And I have 21 gauge here, so copper half round wire, and it's really hard to see. I don't know if you can see that on there, probably not. It's got a round side and a dull side, a smooth side. So you want to make sure that you get, when you're working with that you get the round side up. And I usually leave it on the spool while I'm wrapping, just because it's a lot easier to work with, and it doesn't get as tangled. So I'm gonna measure out here, and I always measure a little longer than I need, and then I can always cut off, but you can't add more if you don't. So I measure roughly about 14 inches. So I'll measure the one piece to about 14, maybe a little more. And I'm going to get rid of that. We'll put that aside and grab some wire cutters. And then I'm just going to cut 2 more pieces here. And then we can put the spool aside. And so now, just so you know, I'm new to wire wrapping. I've done a few pendants that I like. Unfortunately, I'm not as good at it as I'd like. So I'm working on getting there. All right. I have my handy dandy. I just grabbed this. It is my wire straightener, and I'm just going to put the wire in and give it a good straighten. This takes out any bends, and kind of, I mean, it still is a little bent, but not as bad as it would be, you know, not as messed up as like this one. So again, you just fold it around your wire and pull your wire through, and you have a nice straight, or somewhat straight, wire to work with. And so I am going to guess that that's about center. And what I'm going to do here is, and I'm just going to cut a small piece off to do this, because we don't need, I don't need a ton of wire to do this part. And again, I'm going to find my flat side. So if you, I don't know if you can see that. Let me get that up to the camera here. See if I can get that in focus. Probably not. I don't know. Anyways, there's a shiny side, a dull side. One side's round. And so make sure you get the flat side to the wires. And I'm just going to wrap a bunch of times around, making sure that my wires, my square wires, lay flat against each other, and making sure my half round doesn't bunch up, doesn't have a lot of space. And I'm just going to wrap 5, 6, 7 times, just so I have a good, as you can see on this one, I wrapped it a bunch of times, just so I have a good base of wire to wrap around my stone. And it's okay if it's not dead center, because we can adjust center. As you can see, it still moves because I haven't crimped it down. And so when I have pieces of wire like this, I do move the wire around my base wires. So these are the base wires. This is my wrapping wire. If it's on the spool, I tend to turn my wires like that. So what you're going to want to do is make sure that these are nice and tight to each other. I think that's probably long enough, probably a little too long, but that's fine. And then you're going to figure out which side is going to be your inside and which is going to be your outside. So I'm going to flatten these. Just kind of give them a good crimp. Make sure that they're nice and tight and compacted. And I like this side as the outside, so I'm going to pull this over and just trim off so that it'll lie inside. And I'm just going to flatten that. And then I'm going to turn this around and do the same thing on this side. And just flatten that down. All right, and as you can see there, we have a nice, smooth, rounded, wrapped, and I'm going to move that over a little bit because it's not quite centered, which is fine at the moment, because once we bend it around our crystal, then it will then, all right, so then, because this isn't flat, you can't just put it down on the table and bend around it. You're going to have to hold these. If it was a cabochon, I usually just bend it around on a table. I need to figure out which is my front and which is my back. I think this is going to be my front. So I'm going to start by putting a little bit of a bend in here. Just kind of trying to get it the shape of the point. And that's about right. Maybe a little bit tighter. And then I am going to hold my crystal in place where I want it to be. And this is the fiddly part. This is where it gets a little tricky, because you've got to figure out, and it's fine, there's going to be a little gap there. We'll fix that here in a minute. All right. And so I think we've got that pretty close to the shape. It's fine if there's a little gap at the top because again, we're going to fill that in with some decoration. So, all right, that's in there. Next step is we're going to wrap these wires together. And I'm just going to put a little bit of a bend in this there. And a little bit more of a bend in that there. So that when I bring them together, they have a nice shape. And again, it does not have to be perfect because this stone is not perfect. And I think that looks pretty good for the way we're going to set this. And again, you want to make sure that it's, when you set your stone in, and I'm doing it down here on the table, you're going to have some gaps and that's fine. We'll fix that. But I wanted to make sure that this is the right shape. And then I'm going to take my half round. And so the next trick is making sure none of these wires get bunched up and that they're side by side. So you've got 3 and 3 when you pinch them. And then the 3 are laying on top of the other 3 so that they're very nice and neat. And then I am going to take this wire and I'm going to wrap it around once like this, maybe twice. And I'm wrapping it pretty high up. That's fine. So the next step is going to be sliding it down into place. And we'll tuck in this wire here in a minute. That was just to get it held in place. And so now that I've got my wraps or my wires held together, I'm just going to make sure they're nice and lined up. And I'm going to give those 2 wires just a little bit of a crimp, just to kind of hold it in place. And then I need to find, and I think I'm going to use the front 2 wires. We'll bend the back 2. And so what we're going to do now is, keeping the wires out of the way, I'm going to wrap my half round around just the 2 front, and then I'm just going to hold it with my thumb and my index finger and guide it, and then wrap it. And now I need to get that tucked in a little bit. I'm going to use my chain nose, push it down, and it's okay if it gets out of shape a little bit while we're doing this. We'll fix it in the next step. So I'm just going to continue wrapping until I have about an inch or so of this, so that this is going to form our bail. And again, you've got to make sure that you're very careful that you don't twist this wire. Because half round tends to twist up. So wrap a little bit, and then you can use your thumbnail or your chain nose to squish it down. You want to make sure that they're nice and uniform and tight, but also close together, but also not too tight because you don't want to snap the wire. And as you can see, as long as you're holding it and guiding it like this, it's not going to twist, and it's not going to be a problem for the bail. I mean, this part is relatively simple. All right, and I'm going to go a little bit further. I'm probably going to do about 1.5 inches because I want a pretty tall bail for this. All right, I think, yeah. Maybe a little more. Just a little more. Because like I said, I want a pretty big bale. And you just got to make sure you don't wrap over top of the other, the wire you just did. I think that's good. So now, putting my stone back in. Try not to get it upside down. If I put it in the right way. Okay, that's still good. All right, so this is going to be the front. And so what I need to do is wrap around just a little bit to get to the back. And then I'm going to cut off, leaving just a little tiny amount there. I don't know if you can see that. Just a tiny bit. So that I can then take it and just wrap it in around the back of and I'm going to squish this down, and then I'm going to give it a nice squeeze with my pliers, because this just flattens it out and gives it a nice even uniform finish. If you have them, I would recommend doing it with these pliers, just because that way you don't mar the wire. And I'm actually going to give this a really good crimp with this. And we'll fix this up here in a minute. There. And see that? Nice round wrap. Now, I know these got a little bunched up in here, and that's fine. We'll adjust that and fix it here in a second. You can also take your Teflon coated pliers and just smooth that out. Because I see what's going on is this is not staying flat, but again, we'll get there in a second. All right. So now to finish this off, all I'm going to do is take this wire and tuck it through there in between the two just once. And if it's not secure, you can always do it again a second time. It doesn't have to be twice. I'm just doing it twice just to make sure it's finished off nice and tight. Give that a nice crimp. And then I'm just going to trim this off so that it is on the inside. Here. And if you can't get it from the one side, you can always, now that I've bent it, crimp it, or just push it out a little bit, crimp it back in place. And if you have tiny needle nose, and I don't have any tiny needle nose, sorry about the arm in the way, people. Find something to get in there and just tuck it, make sure it's tucked in and that there are no sharp edges. All right, so we have our bail made, and I'm going to pull 2 wires out to one side and 2 wires out to the other for the moment. We're going to set our stone now, but first, again, making sure, you want to make sure that your 3 wires are nice and smooth together. Now, I'm going to set my stone in. And now it's not going to stay in there. It's just going to be slightly in there. It'll be, you know, you pop it in. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take the wires on either side and separate them just a little bit here. And while it doesn't look, we'll fix it. We'll fix it. Don't worry. We're just separating these wires just a little bit to get it to go around your stone. Now you don't want a ton of, oops, that's backwards. You don't want a ton of wire because this is a clear stone. I don't want to see a ton of wire through my stone. So I've got my front there, which is a nice smooth side. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start pinching the wires here out a little bit, just a little, just to get it around the stone. So that's nice and tight on that side. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the back. And so it's nice and tight. And as you can see, there's gaps there. You may just want to take your pliers, and if those don't work, you can use your chain nose. And sorry about hitting the camera with the wires. You just want to fit it to the stone. And so we have that. And that's in there fairly decent. It's not perfect at the moment, but again, we're going to be adding some detail that's going to lock this in place. And really, it's not going to come out. I mean, it's in there pretty good. So now, to make the bail, I am going to find my bail making pliers, and I'm going to use, a pretty decent size, probably the second from the largest. And I'm going to bend the bail forward. So I bent it forward, and I bent it with these bail making pliers, and I'm just going to bend this down around back. And so by wrapping where we did, as you can see, I got it to perfectly fit into the spot where we're going to attach it. And I'm just making this a little more round just because I want that a little more round. And I'm going to pinch here so that's nice. It's a nice round bail. And then I'm going to give it a little squeeze to make it a little more oval. And now after wire wrapping it, it becomes quite stiff. So you will have to, you'll have to think about that. Now, I'm not going to use these two wires. I'm going to cut them off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick them, and I know I'm bending it out of shape, and that's fine. It'll go right back into shape once I'm done. I'm going to stick these wires through the front here. Okay. And push that back into shape. And again, we can always adjust it with the pliers because I do want this down. There we go. Nice shape. And then I'm going to separate them, and I'm going to wrap, pulling it nice and tight, just once around each side up high. Just to lock the bail in place. And then I'm going to leave these wires here at the moment. Actually, I'm going to wrap it a second time just because I want that really secure. And then we can cut it off. And if you have to tuck it in, give it a good squeeze with the pliers. And again, nobody's going to see this part because it will be hidden by our loops in the next. And so I am going to cut this off, leaving a little space. And then I'm going to turn it just a little because we're going to tuck that down in so it's inside of the pendant. And adjust my wires again because they got a little bent there. And now we're going to do the same thing on this side with this wire. And if you need to use your pliers, again, to tuck and get it. As you can see here, I want to tuck this in nice and tight. Oops. And we're going to do the other side. We're going to do this one more time because you want it symmetrical as much as possible. And this is just going to secure your bail, and we can pretty up the bail because I see that I just bent it out of shape, which is fine. We will get there. And I know it seems messy, but trust the process. It will look good, I promise. And we are going to... I'm going to cut this one here. Oh, wait, that's right. We'll cut it on this side. Just to tuck it in, because it's already tucked in and I have more room on that side. All right, and now we're just going to squish this down into place. And our bail is secured. And so what I want to do now is just squeeze this bail just a little bit here, just to get it nice and flat. All right, so now we've got our bail in place. And if we look at our sample, we have 4 wires left. And I am going to grab, and these beads I don't think will fit on, they won't fit on these wires. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to start with this side. Actually, I'm going to start with this side because it's already tight. And I'm going to take these and I'm actually going to straighten them out just a little bit because I want, and I'm going to start with this one and I'm going to curve this guy in front. Just like that. Nice hard curve. And then this guy's going to follow. And what I'm going to do is, while they're staying together, if we can get them to turn. If it happens, you get a wire like that that turns, just take your pliers and give it a little twist. Try to get them lined back up. So that they're both flat again. And then I'm going to put a swirl, finger swirl, right here in front, because I'm not going to do it exactly the same as this one. And then I am going to, after I swirl it, come here and then S shape and trying to keep them together, do another swirl here, and then come up, and I think I'm gonna end that right there, I think, and then we'll just attach it, because I like that there. So I'm gonna cut those, and then I'm gonna take a pair of round nose pliers, and I'm just gonna finish this swirl in on itself, like that. I can get, I'm going to take this guy out for a second because he didn't curl enough. There we go. And then he may be a little too long. There we go. And then this guy can come around and get curved in, and he is also too long. Because I wanted something a little unique. And again, because this is going to be organic, it doesn't have to be perfect. And I think I'm going to do something a little fun with this one. So I'm going to bend this out, and don't worry, we're not really hurting it. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to adjust the camera so you can see this. I'm going to set this, and we're going to do one at a time. I'm going to hammer these and make them nice and flat. And then we're going to put them back together and then set those. And I think what I'm going to do on this one, just because it's annoying me, so I'm going to try to make this one a little bit, actually, it's annoying me, it's getting cut off. So we'll cut this guy here. And we will attach, but I'm going to hammer again just to get these nice and flat. And then I'm going to take a little file here and just kind of, you see how this edge is square? I'm just going to round this edge just a little bit. And kind of sand it, smooth it. And again, this is the beauty of having organic pendants. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start bending it back into place. And then we will attach it. We'll attach this with some a little bit of the flat wire. So I'm going to take just a small piece because I don't need a ton. And we're going to attach this guy, and I'm going to pull him up just a hair so that I can wrap this around. And we'll do 3 wraps. That's 2. Come on. There we go. Come on. And so I want to get it through. Actually, we will wrap this guy over. And there's my 3 wraps. Now I'm going to scrunch them together, kind of pinch them down a little bit just to get them to stay. I'm going to cut this off and try to tuck that in without getting it out of shape. There we go. And then this one, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to cut it off with a little bit to spare. And then we are going to just turn it a little bit and tuck it in and push it in. And just make sure we are together and everything's nice and crimped. So now that's attached. Now I think I want to attach this one on this side. So I'm going to get another little piece of wire. And as you can see, that's sticking up. I'm just going to bend this a little bit and try to turn that so that it's tucked. It curves in. I don't want it sticking. I don't want it sticking too far out. All right, so now this one, I think we're going to attach and I'm just trying to bend it so that it meets up. And we are going to put a little attach point there. You want these somewhat secure. You don't want them flying away because if somebody's wearing it, if it's loose, it could tend to come up and get hooked on something that somebody's wearing, and that would be really bad. All right. I'm going to tuck this through. And there's one wrap. And I would say do a minimum of 2 at any given point. 3 is better. But the more wraps you can do, the more secure it's going to be. And there's 3 nice wraps. This one, I literally can cut off. If I can get my pliers in there, right there. Tuck that one up. This one can get cut off right there. And then that guy, that's a little bit too long. There we go. And he can get tucked in there. So now my swirls on that side are secure. Now, again, this is still going to be a little bit asymmetrical. So what I'm going to do with these two is I'm going to make a big loop here. Big loop. And I'm going to come and follow the curve of this loop a little bit. But then I am going to bend it back this way, do a swirl on this side to cover that hole somewhat, and then I'm going to wrap this up around here. Let's see, do I want to do that? Because my beads are going to come out this side. Let's do this. Let's come down around this side and tuck in and attach. Where do we want to attach? I think I want to attach these. And let's do this. Let's do a swirl here. And they're getting kind of short, so this is going to be tricky. And then if I can, I'm going to attach them to the base right there, because I think that will look fun, and that will also give me something to attach my beads to. So now when you're making organic jewelry, so I don't make, you know, set patterns of things, because I don't want cookie cutter styles, cookie cutter designs. I want something that's going to be unique and one of a kind. And nature is not perfectly symmetrical all the time. I mean, it is sometimes, but not always. All right, if we can get this to curve in there, come on. So I've got it started. I just don't have a whole lot to grab onto. And that's the problem. There we go. Got it. Making sure there's no rough spots. And then this one, which is probably going to be a little easier because I have more wire to work with than the other one. And I'm just going to make sure my loop is where I want it. this guy I'm going to cut and tuck him in. And I'm not sure I like this one. Again, once I get the beads on it, and I may add stuff to it to fill in or to fix. Again, I want this guy. I'm just adjusting here a little bit because I want this up a little higher. And a little bit over that way. And then tuck down. All right, so that's what it looks like so far without the beads. And actually from the front, I really do like that. It's very organic, very asymmetrical. So I am going to grab, and I've got to get some here. See if I can find my 26 gauge. All right, grab my 26 gauge. And so I'm just going to take a piece, probably, I don't know, 6-8 inches long. And I am going to figure out where do I want the beads. So on this one, I had the beads coming around the front. And on this one, I think maybe I want to attach this, and I'm going to see if I can get it through. I see a space there. And I'm going to attach the wire here in that space. Just looking for some holes to get it to go through. And see if I can get it back through that space one more time. Just to make sure it's anchored really nice. And then I'm going to go through here just to make sure it's anchored. And then we can cut off. And the beauty of this is if you take your pliers and just wiggle this just a little bit, it will come apart in a spot, and it will, especially 26, 28 gauge. And then I'm actually going to cut that a little more. I was kind of hoping it would break off a little shorter, but nope, we're just going to cut that there. There. And then just try to tuck that in. All right. So now I've got to load my beads on from in the right order because we're at the top. And so then I need a purple, which is amethyst for chakras. And then I need a lapis, which is the dark blue. That is the crown. This is the third eye. The sodalite is the throat. The green is the heart. Solar plexus is the yellow. And then we've got the tiger eye for the sacral. And then the red agate for the root. Now, there's the front of my pen. So I want these beads to curve around here But see, I'm wondering if I want them all together and to come there, or if I want them to come around. I kind of want those to curve there. And what I'm thinking now is I may do 3, and so what I'm going to do is do something a little bit different. I'm going to attach this wire through here, getting and making sure I can pull it nice and tight. I'm going to put 3 there. I'm going to wind my wire hidden behind the swirl up through up through that, and then I'm going to take the last 4 and then I'm going to curve it. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're going to curve this. Oops, I'm going to have to get that underneath. I want that underneath. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I don't want that. All right, let's pull this out. The beauty of 26 gauge wire is you can pull and move it fairly easy. Try not to get too many crimps in it. Granted, nobody's going to see that. I want it to curve this way, but then I want it to curve back this way, I think. So I wonder if maybe what we need to do is get 1 bead there. And this is the beauty of organic design. And then a couple of beads there. And I can anchor this to this post here, and that will work. I don't want to get it under that. So we're going to have to pass that through somehow. There we go. There we go. And I'm going to wrap that one more time just to make sure it's nice and secure. So sorry if I'm off camera here. I was trying to see my my hole, and I've got to come back up through. Come on. I don't want to be. I went under too many wires. That's what I'm trying to get it back into. There we go. All right, so I wrapped it around there. So now I've got the 1 up there, the 2 there. And then we're going to add 4 here. Yellow. Oops, I forgot. Green, yellow. And And so I don't know if anybody does wire wrapping, but I'm new to it and I do like it. It can be frustrating at times because the picture in your head doesn't always match what actually happens. And see, that's perfect because that's going to come there. That's going to come there. And this will cross over here and I can wrap it up under this and do a couple wraps there and see if I like it. And again, you can mod it. Like the beauty of wire is if you don't like the placement of something in a certain point, you can adjust like I just did with that one bead. And so I really do like that. It looks like a nice S. It is similar to this one. Not quite exactly the same. And I see one on the one I originally finished that still needs tucking. There we go. All right, so that is a quartz crystal chakra pendant, and I'm going to start cleaning up some beads here just because I have a mess, but I will give you a close-up of the one we just did. So we've got some swirls in a figure 8, and that almost looks like an infinity symbol there. And we have our chakra beads. And while you still can see the hole, and I'm just adjusting here. I mean, this isn't going to go anywhere. I give it a good shake test. The pendant's pretty sturdy. You know, if you're worried about the back part, although it shouldn't go anywhere, you know, you can pinch this down. But there you go. You've got swirl at the bottom. And so something a little bit different. So I'm going to clean up, and hopefully in the next one, I will have the new bargain bead box, new curated bead box, and let me know what you think in the comments, and if you've done wire wrapping, what you think, and I will see you in the next one.